Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
Another record-breaking season for British snow athletes heading into another Olympic and Paralympic year. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and between September and April, British skiers and snowboarders placed on 28 major Olympic and 4 Paralympic discipline podiums as qualification continued for Milano Cortina 2026. But the hard work doesn't stop there.
I am Victoria Gosling, and I am the Chief Executive of GB Snowsport.
My name is Pat Sharples, and I am the current head coach for GB Snowsport for all Olympic and Paralympic programmes.
In this special episode of Great British Bosses podcast with GB Snowsport, we'll review the winter season, but look at the plans in place to ensure that British success continues at the Winter Games in Italy in early 26. Beijing 2022 wasn't the Olympics many people had dreamed of. The lack of snow, the COVID protocols, the overall disappointment for Britain's skiers and snowboarders. But 3 years on, GB Snowsport athletes have rewritten the record books again and again, with further success every season, culminating in multiple podiums, world championships, and 6 crystal globes given to the highest ranking athletes, including Zoe Atkin in free ski halfpipe and Mia Brooks in park and pipe snowboard.
Coming up, we'll hear from head coach Pat Sharples on how he manages all of those different disciplines across both the Olympics and the Paralympic Games.
But first, Michael spoke to CEO Victoria Gosling about battling back from Beijing and moving on to Milano Cortina.
When we had our experience in Beijing in the last Olympics, we lost 3 million of funding. We thought it was all over. We were a little bit bent out of shape. We weren't broken. And then the following season we went on and we kind of broke history in the fact that we podiumed in every one of the 12 disciplines. We ended up with world championship medals, and people thought that that was just amazing, but potentially a one-off. And then the following season, off we went again, and we increased the medal count from the previous season. And we were on this upward trajectory. And then, of course, this season, boom, here we go again. And we have done even better than last season. So we've gone on an upward trajectory from Beijing. With everything, having 4 women in 4 different disciplines at top of the world is phenomenal, right? And I think all it's done is set us up well for Milan. Now, we're not counting our chickens for Milan because we've been here before. I think what we're doing is we're just feeling very excited that we have incredible talent, strength and depth across the different disciplines. We have crystal globes coming out of our ears, including the overarching crystal globe by, Mia Brooks. We have talent in different disciplines. You look at the fact Zoe Atkins just won a world championship medal, and we're well primed, but we're not guaranteeing any medals. What we are guaranteeing is an exciting period, I would suggest, as we build up to Milan, and then, of course, as we go to the first Olympics on the same time zone.
And I guess in your role, having that strength in depth across Olympic, Paralympic disciplines, men, women, ski and snowboard must be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me chuckle when I think back to some of the criticism, when we had, and we'd set up this vision to become a top five nation by 2030. And actually, I mean, it was quite interesting. Every time I talked about it, people just thought it was too punchy, too ambitious. Everybody joked about the fact that we're known for Eddie the Eagle. And actually, the reality is, when you look back pre the past 6 years, we had a period of 100 years where I think we accomplished around 82 podiums. In the last 6 years, we've had nearly 300 podiums. And so we're not just effectively competing on the world class stage, we belong on the world class stage, and we are demonstrating to our counterparts, such as the US, such as Canada, and Italy, other nations, that actually we are a bunch of Brits with grit, and we're nailing it in so many different ways. We've got a long way to go, but I would certainly say that we're very credible.
How have you done it, especially with that shrinking pot of money?
Yeah, I think grit, determination, focus, laser focus on and prioritization on what we can do, and what we can do, we do really well. We've got a world-class team in every sense of the word, every sense of the word. So if you look at the individuals that we have within GB Snowsport, every one of them counts. We don't have any capacity for excess baggage. So we employ world-class coaches, we employ a world-class team, and we have world-class talent. And when you put that combination together, you can deliver. I always said it's a little bit like having being with the special forces, in that every single individual matters, every single member counts, and they deliver world-class results, cutting edge solutions, really. So it's continually being agile, it's continually being able to adapt to the environment we find ourselves in, because it's complicated terrain, it's a complex environment. And for us, it's just really important to set our mission up front and center, and for every individual to understand exactly what's expected of them and what they need to deliver.
And how do you deal with the practicalities? Because obviously most of your athletes and a lot of your coaches and things, I'm presuming, are away most of the time because they have to go and seek the snow.
Yeah, I mean, we have a completely decentralized program. So we have athletes in the different programs. I mean, each program has approximately 12 World Cups a year, right? So if you think about it, we have to deal with that times 12. And as it stands today, we've got Zoe Atkin training in America. We've got the Alpine team training in Austria. We've got Bordercross in France. It's continual. It's 365 days a year. And the camp preparation, I mean, we're looking into the summer camp at the moment. I'll be honest, it was challenging with the lack of funding to actually face into ensuring that we had sufficient preparation. We have sufficient preparation planned in the diary, including travel to Southern Hemisphere, to keep ourselves competitive. So it's a continual challenge. People think about snow sports and think about the season and the seasonality of it, but the reality is, for us, it doesn't stop. So when it's the summer period, we're either out bike training, we're on the mountain in the Southern Hemisphere, and we're chasing down the snow wherever it might be. And we're ensuring that from a strength and conditioning perspective, our athletes are in peak condition. And then you head into the season, we'll be kicking into the season. Of course, it's qualification period. That's already started. So we have to be really laser focused on where are we targeting in terms of the World Cups? Where are we targeting for our training? What tricks do we need to have in the bag? What matrix are we looking at for each different discipline, for each different athlete, because they're all on a slightly different journey. And of course, and that's for the freestyle. And then you just look at alpine, cross country, moguls. There's all different requirements. And then again, face into para-Nordic, for example, or para-alpine or para-snowboarding. And again, there's a different demand on what we actually need them to be preparing for. And again, it's laser focused in the prioritization of where we spend money, what we actually do, and what's going to add value to where we are.
And tell us a little bit about the management structure. So you're the CEO, you've got a performance director, a head coach. How is that structured? How often do you guys kind of sit around a table together, whether that's in person or virtually?
Well, I would say that we speak on a daily basis, several times a day. So it's critical that we have regular communication. We're such a tight team. I call them my battle buddies, probably with the ex-military background. And I just need to know where they are. I need to know what role they're playing. Are they in possession? And they need to feel that actually I've got that, that support is there for them. And I've got things when they fall. So but it is, whilst we speak every day, the reality is it's very much a model that's about empowerment and it's about enablement. So they feel empowered to be decisive and they feel enabled because we give them the right toolkit. And then I feel it's my job to take away the distractions from them. So having the pair of, both Kiernan as the performance director and Pat Sharples as the head coach, we're incredibly blessed. And of course, I bring a different set of expertise from a leadership perspective to really support them on the journey.
We're less than a year away from Milano Cortina now, Olympics and Paralympics, both less than a year away. Is it too early to make any predictions or start thinking about what you guys can achieve out there?
I wouldn't want to hedge my bets on anything, but what I would say is how exciting is it going to be when we tune in, knowing full well that we've got talent across cross country, across alpine, across freestyle, across the Paralympic teams, across snowboarding, across freestyle ski, across moguls, at border cross, ski cross, you name it. We have the talent. And so it's I think for people tuning in, then it's going to be a really exciting Winter Olympics. And as I said earlier, it's the first Winter Olympics, in 12 years, in the same time zone. So I think people feel it's a bit of a home games for us. And, the tickets have already sold out. I mean, how's that happened? We didn't have that with the summers now. So I think that's really exciting. There's a really fantastic opportunity ahead for everybody, and we are going to a ski resort that is known for being a ski resort, and it's in Europe, and people can get there and people enjoy skiing in Europe. So, and what's more is we've had it as a training base for a while, so not saying that's giving us a competitive advantage, but there must be something in there that helps us. Well, mentally it helps us because we know the environment we're heading into.
CEO Victoria Gosling talking to Michael. This is a special episode of the podcast with GB Snowsport.
Now, as we heard in that interview, the overall aim of the organisation is to provide opportunities for athletes to achieve their full potential, both as individuals and then as a team, and to win World Cup and ultimately Olympic and Paralympic Games medals. So how does the head coach Pat Sharples get his head around all of the disciplines, all of the races, all of the runs, and all of the different tricks?
So I actually come from a freestyle ski background. I was the free ski, park and pipe. I was the head coach for many, many years. After the games in 2018, I then got promoted to start working across all disciplines. And when I got given this job, it was like, well, how do I have the best impact in this position to help support these athletes? And my main part of my role now is making sure we get the right coaches for the right programs to support those athletes in those programs across all of the different disciplines. And it's also my job to work with the coaches to then put in the right performance plans, build the right team cultures, environments and structures to support those athletes in the best way possible.
So you're not doing kind of day-to-day, Monday's Nordic day, Tuesday's downhill, Wednesday is big air. It's more about that organizational role.
Pretty much. Some days I can be very much jumping in where it's hands-on. We've got new athletes coming into the program, on a regular basis. Where some athletes have different needs than others. We might have different competitions on when we want to have training camps, and I still sort of jump into that technical coaching role where needed. But a lot of the time, it's more of the organizational side, making sure that we stay on track with regards to our performance plans, that we're targeting the right events, and we're progressing in the right way.
Pat, do you miss working directly with the athletes?
I would really miss that if I didn't now and again get that opportunity to still work with the athletes at certain events and at certain training camps. It's still my favorite thing to do. Being a coach, working with athletes, seeing them progress, it's still my favorite part of being a coach. But I also love being able to support the coaches and help them and see them develop.
Because often what happens when you have a career is that you get very good at doing something and then you get promoted and you don't tend to do that. You get asked to do something else. And that's often the way, isn't it, as you progress up the ladder?
It absolutely it is. And, it was a huge change for me. I didn't really know how that role would work because there was nobody doing that. But, this is 7 years on and we've developed so many new programs where we've had new athletes come into these programs in that time. For example, we just started a mogul program back 7 years ago. We didn't have a snowboard cross program. And in that time now we've got athletes that are in those teams and they're winning medals at World Cups, World Championships. Also, again, working with Paralympic athletes. I never had any experience of doing that when I'd been working in my past role as the free ski coach. And that's been one of the best experiences. Continued to being, constantly challenged every day, but it's really rewarding to working with the athletes in those teams as well as the coaches.
Did you have any doubts or concerns about stepping up? Because you had this sort of documented, we want to be a top 5 snow sport nation. There's a bit of pressure from above. Plus, obviously, quite a lot of new skills and new things to get your head around.
Absolutely. Like I said, I didn't really know how that was going to work. And, within all of the different snow sports disciplines, the only thing a lot of them have got in common is they're done on snow in the winter. And a lot of there's different cultures, different environments for all of these different teams. But what I did at the start of that journey was very much spent time with the different athletes and coaches and programs across GB Snowsport. I had 6 months where I just listened and observed everything that was going on and worked out how my leadership could help support those programs. The way that I look at myself now is more I serve for those athletes and coaches. I'm there to put things into place that they need that's going to help them progress and move forward.
And I don't necessarily want to get into medal targets and things like that with you, Pat, but a head coach at, say, triathlon at a summer games, it's one of 30 sports. But the head coach at GB Snowsport at a winter games, you account for a way bigger proportion of the athletes on Team GB and Paralympics GB.
Yes, I try not to overthink about, the set medal targets as such. We just look at all of the athletes in the programs, where they currently are at, what opportunities that they have to achieve in Milano Cortina, and the best way of making sure that they're prepared and ready to deliver those performances. It changes weekly, I would say, the way that I see it from my role, because you see athletes progressing at different levels, different speeds of progression. There's a lot of injuries. Unfortunately, that's something, things can be going extremely well 1 month with one athlete, and then it only takes an injury and then you're off for 6 months and it changes everything again. But right here, right now, less than a year out, I'm pretty happy with where we're at.
And we've heard from Vicky in this podcast, Pat, that each year since a disappointing Beijing, you've got better and better. In some ways, does that add pressure?
There's always that pressure, I feel. I always want to overachieve with anything that we're going to do. We mentioned, we do have set medal targets. Not only do we want to hit that, we want to smash that. We do, and we feel that we have got opportunities to do that. But sometimes you also need that little bit of luck. We need to get everybody fit and healthy to the games. I would say out of this part of the cycle, this is definitely the most important part of the journey. With snow sports and what we need to do and how we need to push to progress, it's also quite fragile as well. So we've got to find a bit of a happy medium to keep everybody safe, fit and healthy too.
Now, I understand, as you as head coach are the person who looks at all what the competitors are doing. what the other nations are doing and looking to learn from them? Is that something that you can still do in the run up to the Olympics?
Without a doubt, we're doing a lot of our program reviews right now. A lot of work that I've been doing personally over the last few weeks is looking at other athletes from other nations, where they're currently at, the tricks that they're performing, what the judges are rewarding, looking for any sort of common themes that we've seen or changes within the different disciplines, especially in the judged sports. And that's really important, because a lot of it, where we're profiling athletes where they need to be, especially on trick progression, it's absolutely essential that we get that right. It is hard in judge sports because there's different trends and things do change. So even keeping up to speed with the judges' courses and how they're judging certain tricks and rewarding different runs, that's massively important. We have got our finger on the pulse all the time. So it's a big part of what we have to do for sure.
We've been told on this podcast before from, say, a couple of the summer athletes, say Jack Law, the diver, or Max Whitlock, the gymnast, that when they get to the games, they are essentially doing a routine that they've been doing in every competition, in every training session for a year, maybe more. Is that the same with your athletes, with those judged sports, those tricks? Are they doing those routines now that we will see in Milano Cortina, or will they evolve?
Yes and no. It's I'll use ski and snowboard slopestyle for an example here. So at the moment, we haven't been given the official design of the slopestyle course. We've given, seen bits of it that potentially might be the way that the course is. And with slopestyle, it's about being creative, using the different features to put down your tricks, which you can, some people could have similar tricks, but it's about putting your style or your flavor on that trick to make it look like your own, which can give you those extra points from the judges. So until we're actually on that slopestyle course and we've actually trained on that, which won't be until like 3 or 4 days before the actual competition at the games, then our athletes won't have absolutely 100% decided what their run is going to be on that. We'll certainly go there with like a big bag of different tricks that we can like implement onto that course. And that's important, that they've got all the tools, they can do it, but then they need to adapt those to that course. But we have seen at many Olympic Games athletes that have been in that environment where they have actually gone and done a new trick that they've never tried before and landed it, and that's won them Olympic medals before. But yes, certainly we want to go there with tricks we know that are going to be podium competitive within all of the different disciplines, for sure. We want to be as prepared as we possibly can.
Final question from me, Pat. We've got a European Winter Olympics and Paralympics, something that we haven't had for a number of years. That's a huge opportunity for your athletes and for GB Snowsport.
It's massive. It really is. I absolutely love snow sports. I have from a very, very young age. I grew up on the dry ski slopes in Lancashire. I want to see our sports inspire people to get more involved. We've got over 70 ski and snowboard artificial centres in the UK, with Milano Cortina, with the strongest team that I feel that we've had going into an Olympic and Paralympic Games at the same time zone in Europe. I think that this could potentially change the way that people see snow sports. We've got an opportunity to do that. And also what makes it even more exciting, we've got it in France in 2030 as well. So I personally, myself, I'm generally couldn't be more excited about that, because we've got an opportunity to really change the way that people look at snow sports in the UK right now.
That's Pat Sharples, head coach, and before it, GB Snowsport CEO Victoria Gosling, bringing another successful British snow season to a close ahead of the next one, which of course includes the Milano Cortina Winter Games of 2026. We wish them and all of the GB athletes well. And if you've missed any of the special episodes, do make sure you follow for more British snow stories.
This has been a special episode of the podcast with GB Snowsport.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.